When your enemy makes a mistake, your instinct is to strike. But Sun Tzu warns that simply seeing an opening is not enough. A master strategist doesn't just ask, is there a gap? They ask, do I have the strength to survive walking through it? This is the core of Sun Tzu's lesson on the correct ratio of attack and defense. It is arguably the most fiercely debated concept in the art of war. It forces a leader to look past the illusion of an easy target and calculate the brutal, cold math of resource allocation. And nowhere has this ancient debate played out more vividly than in the agonizing choices faced by the Ukrainian military command. Let's look at the first school of thought, famously championed by the ancient commentator Sun Tzu. He argued that you must start in absolute defense. You absorb the enemy's opening blows, map out their strategy, and wait for them to overextend. But when a gap appears, you don't just blindly rush in. First, you test to see if it's a trick designed to draw you out of your armor. If it's a genuine mistake, you pivot to a brutal offensive instantly. We saw this exact calculus play out during the 2024 Kursk offensive. Ukraine had spent months stubbornly defending its lines in the Donbas. They waited until Russian forces were deeply committed to an offensive elsewhere, leaving their own border in the Kursk region lightly defended. Ukraine verified that the gap was real, shifted from total defense to a surprise lightning offensive, and cut deep into the Russian territory. They saw a pure gap and used their concentrated resources to seize a massive strategic leverage point. But then there is a second interpretation, the one Sun Tzu heavily criticized, but which modern military reality often forces leaders to adopt. This school argues that even if an enemy opens up a genuine gap, a weaker army must stay on the defensive if it lacks the raw firepower, manpower, or air support to sustain an attack. Striking without the proper resources is a suicide mission. An offensive eats up precious ammunition and soldiers at a terrifying rate. Think of Ukraine's agonizing decisions throughout 2023 and 2025 during severe Western ammunition delays. There were times when local Russian lines were thin, fractured, or exhausted. Under the first doctrine, Ukraine should have attacked. But because they were facing critical shortages of artillery shells and air defense missiles, the Ukrainian high command chose to remain behind their deep, fortified defensive networks. They understood the grim truth. An open door doesn't matter if you don't have the strength to hold the room once you walk inside. Sun Tzu's ultimate war tip boils down to a profound piece of advice for any leader under pressure. Never let anger or a fleeting opportunity dictate your strategy. If the enemy opens a gap, double check that it isn't a trap, and even if it's real, only transition from defense to attack if your resources can deliver a killing blow. To bring this critical chapter to a close, knowing the correct ratio of attack and defense isn't about being timid or bold. It's about being cold, calculating, and absolutely realistic about your own capabilities. As the grueling chess match in Ukraine illustrates, an open door on the battlefield is a test of a leader's discipline. If you chase every single fracture in the enemy line without the ammunition, armor, or manpower to back it up, you aren't conquering, you are overextending. You are handing the advantage right back to your opponent. When navigating the high-stakes transition between standing your ground and striking forward, keep Sun Tzu's ultimate checklist in mind. Verify the opening. Never take an enemy's sudden vulnerability at face value. Test the waters. Verify the intelligence and make sure that the gap isn't a deliberate trap designed to pull you out of your position. Audit your own strength. An offensive demands a superabundance of resources. If your supply lines are thin or your assets are depleted, true mastery means having the restraint to stay behind your shield. Attack only to win. Defense is how you survive, but the offensive is how you finish the fight. Only pivot to the attack when you have the precise momentum and the resources required to turn that temporary gap into a permanent victory. In the end, a clever fighter doesn't just look at what the enemy is giving them, they look at what they have the power to take. Secure your foundation, weigh the math, and wait for the perfect momentum to pivot.